And time now for a brand new program, at least experimentally a brand new experiment. And we're going to talk about, actually, it's called Town Talk, about Amherst specifically. And joining us are two people who want to talk about the town of Amherst, Sonny and Sam, who will be. Are you guys going to deliver your real names, your full, complete names? Also, I want to mention that the opinions reflected in this program are those of the speakers and callers themselves and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoint of WAMV, its owner or ownership or management, because like Sonny and Sam, we love Amherst. So no matter what they say, the opinions expressed are those of the speakers themselves. And now, here's Amherst Town Talk.
And always constructive criticism, right?
That's right.
Thank you so much, Bob. Hey, Sonny and Sam, we're both SS, you know?
It's got a good ring to it.
Town Talk, the hottest and the coolest talk in the town of Amherst. I'm ready to get into this, Sonny.
The only talk in the town of Amherst. And that's what motivated me to talk to you about doing this. And that's why I feel it's worth the time to do this. We need a forum where we can talk about town matters and people can tune in and get informed about town matters because people are busy, right? People are dispersed, distributed. Their attention is all over the place. You know, working people, they sleep, they get up for work, they go to work, they come home, they might have a little bit of time, then they got to go to sleep and do it all over again. You know, not everyone has time to be attending government meetings and be able to be fully informed on what's going on. But local matters can really affect you, right? I think local government is the level of government that has the most effect on people's lives.
I like that very much. So we can kind of chop it up and put it into bite-sized, digestible pieces for people and help them approach some of these issues. Because sometimes there's some wacky over the top stuff going on in town that people are interested in. People ask me, hey, what happened at the town council meeting? So I love this idea that we can sort of serve it up to them in a palatable manner.
Yep. And it's nothing is pleasant when you deliver it angry, right? I think the two of us have personalities that allow us to kind of transcend that, even if something really bothers us. I think we're both able to deliver it without the anger.
With peace and love.
Yeah. So, and I asked you to do this with me, and I wasn't looking for somebody who aligns with me politically. I wanted to find someone that has some different views so we can have a more balanced discussion of things. Right? Because especially local matters, they affect all of us. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent.
100%. I believe we have to find the common ground, and I think it's really great for our community here in town, in the county, in the Commonwealth, in the nation, maybe even globally, if we can start showing an example of how folks actually have much more in common with each other. I mean, let's say we probably agree on 85% of stuff. And sure, there's a 15% that we disagree on.
Yeah.
But are we going to tear it all down because of that 15% agreement? I say, hey, look, there's always going to be disagreements. You like coffee, I like tea. I don't know if you drink coffee, but I'm just saying, there's always going to be, listen, you prefer your eggs scrambled. I prefer my eggs over easy. There's going to be differences. What, are we going to fight about that? No, let's find the things we care about. We want a park.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a park in town. That's not a partisan issue.
I'm passionate about those 15% issues, right? Like I don't want to minimize the importance of those issues that we disagree on, but it's good to remember, right, that we do agree on the other 85%. But, the 85% is not helpful for winning elections and dividing people. That's why you don't hear about the 85%, right? Every political ad is focused on that 15% because that's what's going to break you out and get you to win.
And follow the money. You bring up political ad. There's a ridiculous amount of money involved in these political campaigns, and That's unfortunately part of it.
Yeah. These are designed to divide us, right?
Wow.
And that's not good, especially when we're dealing with local issues where it's unnecessarily dividing us, right? I was sitting. I think I might have told you this earlier.
You're getting right into this.
I was sitting next to a deputy city manager. I won't say what city in Virginia on public transportation, and he mentioned to me that getting national politics mixed up with local politics is the absolute worst thing for local politics. It's completely unnecessary. It divides people over stuff that you really can't affect at the local level. And there's so much that we have in common with local issues and local government that we don't need anything coming in and polluting that discussion. So I thought that was very wise.
Absolutely. I think we need folks to get involved in the local. I go to a lot of the local meetings. Sometimes I'm the only citizen in the audience. It shouldn't be that way. And then on a presidential election, you get more folks coming out because it's more enticing. It feels more important to people. But I say it's the local issues that are vastly more important, and are the things that are going to affect us every day. Jobs in our community, family life, what is it like just for the day-to-day workers in the community, families that are trying to raise children in the community. So education, to go to school board meetings and to be the only person sometimes in the audience at a school board meeting is
we should be embarrassed as a community, right? That nobody's showing up or only one person is showing up. At least that's the way I feel.
I don't want people to be shamed. It's like you say, people are busy. But I know that there's some, at least grandparents out there, maybe retired folks that maybe, like I say, have grandchildren in the system that
because
could be coming to the meeting instead of watching their stories.
Because of the place in their lives that they may have the time to be able to get involved, and we need them to be involved.
I mean, I'm talking to you dads out there, if you're listening. I mean, I get it. Like, the NBA playoffs are going on. Maybe you don't want to miss the big game. I get it. But at the end of the day, and I love some playoff basketball. It's exciting, but the school board meeting is really boring at times too. But it's really important just to show up in the room. Get yourself a half and half tea, whatever, some snacks. It's, camp out. It's fine.
Angela handed out popcorn at a town council meeting one time because she knew it was going to be fired up.
That's one of my ideas. I don't know the viability of this, but I've even considered, some parents, if they enjoy drinking, well, maybe I'll have their alcohol sippy cups ready to go, just whatever it takes to get people in the door. We need parents and, stakeholders. We need stakeholders in the room.
Yeah. And just to emphasize this point that local government affects us more significantly than any other level, state, national, county. A lot of business owners may be concerned about national taxes going up and making it hard for them to be able to make a profit. But local government very easily can shut your business down completely tomorrow. And that's actually happened in town for a few businesses. It's like while you were distracted and focused on national issues that you have a much smaller influence on, right? Just the people in your backyard just shut you down completely.
Right. You're worried about what old man Biden is doing. Don't worry, the town of Amherst is going to cut your grass for you.
Yeah, and put a lien on your house. And
the federal government had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, and in the case of businesses that are shut down, changing zoning ordinance and reasons why you weren't grandfathered can shut you down tomorrow. And that's really why I started getting involved in local politics. I mean, I was a target myself a couple times in town. We have what I like to call serial complainers that travel around town. I like the image of a person with a clipboard, right, walking around and writing down violations that they see. And this was something I only thought existed with homeowners associations. I heard all of these stories. I'd never lived in a development that had an HOA, but I heard stories from my friends. And just from what they told me, I was like, man, the homeowners association meeting is just like the worst of humanity coming out. Everyone complaining about each other and trying to hurt each other, and it just sounded so terrible. And I've kind of felt like we have a HOA here in town, and we shouldn't, right? I didn't sign restrictive covenants that agreed to all of these things about the color of my mailbox and my door, and what I should have in my front yard and what I shouldn't have. But I've heard people say HOA stands for homeowners of Amherst.
Wow.
Town-wide HOA.
Before you get involved in this, we might as well mention that, Sonny, you and your family live in, remodeled the old newspaper building and live on 2nd Street. Is this okay to mention?
Yeah. There was a newspaper article about it when we moved in. They thought it was noteworthy since we were taking over their headquarters and living in it.
Sam, you are not from this area, but you are one of the teaching assistants at the high school?
Yes, an instructional assistant. I am a resident of the town of Amherst for 4.5 years now.
Good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, it's good to have you. That's part of the town of Amherst. I'm from California, actually, though I rarely mention it because I lived here for 30 years.
Yeah, Bob, you're from here. I mean, you've lived here for 30 years. You're from here.
I've never been back to California since I came here. So.
Wow.
I think your grandchildren might be able to say they're from Amherst. We've got some pretty stringent requirements here.
Incidentally, when we get into the topics, we have 2 phone numbers. If you want to just make an opinion and not be on the air, you can call us at 946-9000 at WAMV. Also, if you want to be on the air, we can put you on the air in the high fidelity at 946-2201, area code 943-2201, and you can join in the conversation if you wish. You mentioned a couple of things, Sonny, about people throwing you out of town for doing things again. Do you want to get into any of that?
Yeah, so I'll just mention, since Sam mentioned, we moved to the town 14 years ago.
It's not a contest.
And no. Well, there's a nuance in the middle of that. We actually moved away for a couple of years in the middle of that, and we had intended that move to be permanent, and we ended up coming back to Amherst, and it's kind of interesting how that happened.
You worked for the Navy, actually.
Yeah, the Navy's what brought me to Virginia. I'm originally from the Northeast, and we were on an overseas tour when we got orders to Washington, D.C., and we ended up settling in the Fredericksburg area in Northern Virginia, and we were there for about 5 years before I was accepted to the law school at Liberty. And so looking for a place to live in the Lynchburg area, we ended up here in Amherst, and this has been home ever since, except for those 2 years.
And you actually still are connected with the Navy, and you do something.
Yeah, I'm retired from the Navy Reserve, but I still work for the Navy as a civilian.
Nice.
Wow.
And they let me do that job remotely most of the week. I do have to commute to D.C. At least once a week.
Oh. Well, and Sam, you've been here for 4 years?
Yeah, 4.25 to 4.5 years, and I never thought that I would live in a rural area like this. I am born and raised in the big city.
And the big city is not Los Angeles. It's
No,
New
a
York.
city double the size of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the largest by population city in the United States, 8.5 million people. And I'm from the island of Manhattan. I'm not, that has like, a lot of times you mention that to folks around here, and that is not, people, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, and I always like to point out just certain things, like just certain factual things, like look, like there's more people like you, whoever you are, in New York than there are here. Just by virtue of there being 8.5 million people in that city, 25 million people in that metro area. So I think when folks start thinking about things, oh, it's just a certain way. Well, in a big city like that, I mean, you have everything, and you have all different walks of life, and you know, many more churches in just Brooklyn than there are in Amherst County, for instance. So, but I was very much into that way of life, and thought that that's what I wanted. Big art museums and all different types of cuisine. And sometimes I still really miss the restaurant scene. It's a limited restaurant scene here in Amherst in comparison, but I'm getting really into the way of life here, with the quiet life, fresh air. It's fantastic knowing everybody, not just that I know every elected official, that every elected official knows me. All the law enforcement, the top cop, just to, that he knows me.
The chief of police in New York City wouldn't say hi to you when he saw you?
No, you wouldn't see that person. It doesn't work that way. And only if you happen to be a family friend of someone in that position would you know that person. One time I saw Rudy Giuliani walking down the street, but he had like a whole group, a whole entourage around him. I think I yelled some things at him.
He had to reach up over his entourage to be able to say, "Hey, Sam."
I once shook David Dinkins' hand for some reason, and I went to a few Yankees rallies on the steps of City Hall. But I'm all in on Amherst now, I want to say. I don't like getting into all that stuff about New York, because it's like California. It almost becomes a dirty word. But I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that this divide in the country is on purpose. I mean, it's almost silly to kind of look down on cities as if listen, cities have been around a long time before your grandma was born, right? I mean, it's almost like prehistoric stuff, cities. Mm-hmm. It's an ancient concept where human beings come together and live communally, and then the port grows, the trading center grows, and you create these cities get created. It's just it just is. You don't have to live in that a type of environment, and there's certainly pros and cons to both different ways of life, but I'm grateful to have been in that, and to have that feeling of, okay, I'm all in on this. This is all I'm going to want. I don't need that country life. And then life has an interesting way of just, nope, no. You thought it was going to be this way? This is actually what it's going to be. And here I am. And now I'm all in on this country life. And I became vegetarian when I was 14, but I'm pretty set that I might kill a squirrel this coming winter, because I've been hearing a lot about a dish called squirrel and dumplings, and hunting is a big part of the way of life. So it's just interesting how folks can change. I don't support the factory farm industry per se. I'm not really into that. I think that's a problem with what's going on, and
there's a lot of problems with the food industry.
And I would, just about Amherst, and what's so great about this, I heard that back in the 60s, let's say, that on Main Street every day was the farm market. It wasn't just this like, now we have twice a week, which is great, but every day
you could get locally sourced food
and have everything local. And now we've come so far from that, where you go in a Food Line and that's the main grocery store here, and there's nothing local. I mean, they have a local section, but it's like from the Tidewater. I mean, give me a break. Why they haven't been able to work out that they could sell, say, the Tucker Family Farms beef in Food Line, it doesn't really make sense. And in fact, if I may, from a political angle, I get kind of frustrated. Like, I've gotten involved in politics here now, and not by choice, because I really got pulled in by native Amhersters. I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm some outsider, a New Yorker coming in, and trying to do something, because I'm not. I'd rather just, go hunt squirrels with my country buddies, but it's just like, I got pulled into this. But I just want, Food Line didn't happen on my watch. That you know what I mean? Someone else in a previous administration, if I may, a Republican, leadership allowed that to happen. Okay, that and I think that's a bit uncool.
That'll be an interesting conversation because that ties into land use laws and other things. But
Well, let's get into maybe land use laws, and because this has come up recently, and so Sonny, you want to take it in that direction?
yeah, so that's what got me attending the town meetings. My wife Angela had been attending the town meetings for a lot longer before I started attending. And she was concerned about issues involving our kids. There was a attempt to ban skateboards on the sidewalks in town, and we have a bunch of kids in our family, and they like spending time outside. And one of the things that my kids like to do is skateboard. And she started attending these meetings because she was concerned they were going to actually ban kids having fun on the sidewalk. And our sidewalks are not very crowded. Many times of the day, there's nobody on the sidewalk, right? It depends on what time of the day it is. And so, and it's wonderful to see parents with little children riding behind them with their training wheels on. And it's, our sidewalks have their own issues here in town. But it didn't seem right to be banning kids being able to use the sidewalks.
Bob.
All right, we'll do that. Hello, you're on the air.
Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I wasn't going to go on the air, but it's okay. My name is Wendy, and I've been here 37 years, and I've raised 4 sons here. I'm from New Jersey.
Wendy,
And that has
thanks for
everything.
calling.
Lots of shopping, lots of farm markets, lots of farmers, whether you have an acre or 1,000 acres. So there's lots of fresh food. So I can relate to that with Sam.
Thank you, Wendy.
And I can also relate about the skateboarding thing because I raised boys. And, if a town is kind of labeled senior citizen or a senior catered to the seniors or something, then you wouldn't expect to see skateboarding. But you would with healthy, normal kids. You know, and the other thing is, I think there's a real deficit in the town of Amherst for handicap accessibility because I have a blind and multiply handicapped son that likes his independence. And there's no handicap parking in front of many of the businesses, and many of the places are dangerous for him to walk, let's say, from the library to CVS.
Yeah, good luck trying to go down the sidewalk in a wheelchair.
Well, he's not in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He's physically mobile, but he's had major problems physically by falling. And when I try to address that, what happens is grandfather laws, and VDOT says it's not on them. And then, the Elks don't want it to be on them, or the Moose, or whoever's property is owned by the businesses.
Yeah, these
So I wind up,
Moose.
he's in his 20s and he wants something to do, and independence is hard. He was trained through the state through a lady with a cane. I'm trying to think of what her position is called. But anyway, the Department of Blind. To walk the streets, so he remembers them, but things change.
Yeah, independence. Independence was one of the reasons
I don't
that.
like to take away his independence.
Yeah.
He's going to need that in life because I'm not going to be around forever. I'm almost 70 years old.
Yeah,
And
opportunity to have independence was one of the reasons we moved to town, right? Our kids get bored if they're just sitting home all day. And, they depend on us for rides.
Yeah, we're
and we're
outside
not.
of town 10 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And one
so
of
we,
the reasons we wound up outside of town was to be able to have a large enough garden and to hunt and to fish, to take advantage of all those wonderful things that we have here.
yeah.
It's just that socializing is a problem. I dropped him off at a business where he's welcome, hang out on Main, and I didn't realize on a Saturday they close at 2. So he sat out in the sun for like an hour and a half, and here I am thinking he's in there buying and business and enjoying his time among people, and he sat in the sun.
Right. Wendy,
but you know,
thank you.
it's hard for me to
It's a lot
speak.
to
I
think
wasn't going to
about.
speak on the air because I don't have the opportunity to go into the meetings. And I'm not a town person. I'm a country person. I live out in the country.
Well, this is great, Wendy, because this is what we're here for. You don't have time to attend the meetings. Sunny and I are here with you to bring it to you in digestible bits. We're going to have fun. We're going to be here for you. So please keep tuning in. Please keep calling in. And together, we're going to work on all this stuff. Thank you so much.
See, the only place for him to live is those apartments behind the storage.
Right,
And for him to walk with no sidewalks up to the main street.
right,
And there's ditches and all kinds of glitches that he could get hurt in.
right. Well, it's
He'd be better off in a wheelchair, but I can't put him in one if he doesn't want to go in it.
right. Well, this
All
is
right,
the.
well, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for calling us, Wendy. We really appreciate you. All right, we'll call back. And Sunny, yeah, well, Wendy gives us a lot to think about here and to talk about. I mean, if we could, I want to address those
Hey,
things.
thanks for your call.
And I want to talk about this skateboard issue because I really appreciated Councilwoman Wheaton. You know, she was great on it. She came in, and I remember really waking up to town council stuff around this time too, where it was like, whoa, what are we doing here? I mean, you talk about family friendly, and there's a lot. Everyone's talking about family friendly. You got to keep it. And then these skateboard kids, again, having grown up in the city, and sort of being able to ascertain the difference between a kid that's getting into trouble versus a kid that's not getting into trouble. I mean, these skateboard kids were clearly wholesome, kind of keeping themselves out of trouble. You know, is exactly what you wanted. Is they're doing this kind of very wholesome, just kind of athletic activity. They're not bothering anybody. I mean, they're not yelling. They're not. There was apparently no kind of property damage or kind of any kind of illicit behavior going on. And so the idea that there would be some issue from some kind of cranky peace and love, and I don't mean, but it's kind of cranky neighbors. And again, that I come from a place that's very loud, such that, you know, you get so used to the sound of trucks and yelling and bottles breaking and, you know, whatever. And then just the sound of some skateboard wheels on the concrete could be an issue, was very frustrating and a waste of taxpayers' time that we even, this was an issue, because the whole point was it was a non-issue. And I appreciated Councilwoman Wheaton for standing up, and I think Councilman Reverend Higginbotham was also good on this issue.
Yeah, I empathize with being startled when you don't expect something, right? But there's less restrictive ways to respond to that, right? If you get startled by someone once, we now want to ban that activity across town. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe there's something in between here that we can,
Yes.
come up with as a solution.
It's the single issue stuff that really gets to me, Sonny, where somebody is going to come into the meeting. They're not paying attention. They're not focused on issues that affect everybody. They're just there for their single issue. Oh, this is affecting my quality of life. Such that.
So that the entire town should now come into conformity with what I need because of my single issue.
I mean, there was even a mention in one meeting that someone had called the police because someone was doing donuts in front of their house or something. Now, I mean, I guess that's a negligible issue, but I just come from a place where
that's a citable issue.
But I don't know. Like, my mentality is like it wasn't. I just don't want to waste the police time with something like that. I don't want to, if there's something more serious going on, I don't want them distracted because, the person who said that they were like disturbing their stories. They were watching TV and the sound, so it was like a noise complaint is what it was. I found that a little frustrating, but.
I'll have to disagree with you a little bit on the significance of that. Although
Okay.
if other things were going on that were more serious, of course, that's where the attention should be. Thankfully, most of the time in the town of Amherst, there's not things more serious than that going on, which I'm thankful for. That's part of why we're here.
Can we jump into a really interesting issue that you brought up in the last town council meeting? The town is seriously considering making an ordinance against a sign inside the house, so they could actually regulate and have a ruling. So this is a sign inside your house that is potentially, if you're visible through a first floor window. And this is something that they could regulate, a sign inside your own house.
So it's kind of funny. These new restrictions end up kind of riding piggyback on things that are otherwise advertised as opening up more freedoms. And it's kind of like buried inside, you know how people talk on national news about things being buried in 1,000-page bills. It's kind of how that feels to me when I'm looking at what's next on the council agenda. And this looks like a good thing, right? This was advertised as we're going to allow open signs, open flags, because right now there's no allowance for open flags in town in the zoning ordinance. And so that was requested. The council wants to approve that. The planning commission put that together.
What does that mean, open
Yeah,
flags?
define open flags.
Just a flag that says open on it.
Wow.
So up until this point, that surface area has counted against your allowance for permanent signs. And so they're trying to carve out a new allowance for open signs that doesn't count against your square footage allowance for permanent signs. And I think that's a good thing to be allowing open flags. People have been doing it, but they've been receiving complaints, zoning complaints the town has over open signs. I don't know who complains about open signs, but again, we have what I call serial complainers that are looking for anything that might get somebody in trouble. But so this is a good thing, but then I found buried in the draft changes was this where they're going to be changing the definition of sign in the zoning ordinance to delete the words "and used as an outdoor display." So sign is defined in the zoning ordinance as any words, lettering, parts of letters, figures, numerals, phrases, sentences, emblems, devices, designs, trademarks, or combination thereof by which anything is made known, such as the designation of an individual, a firm, an association, I'm almost done, a profession, a public business, a commodity or product, which are visible from any public way and used as an outdoor display. So they want to delete those words "and used as an outdoor display." And I asked town staff, why are we doing that? And town staff's response was, we don't like that people can have things in the window that can be visible from outside. And they kind of see it as a skirting of our sign ordinance when people have things that are visible through the window. Wow. So they want to be able to reach into the window and count the things that you can see inside against your sign square footage.
Well, that's really interesting, because it seems to me to be an ordinance about ordinances, and they want to have total control over what you can do. And
yeah, there's what was specifically mentioned was the lit up signs in the vape shop window.
Wow.
Some people don't like those signs, and they're very bright. They're designed to catch your attention, as you're driving by. And the town realized they couldn't do anything about it because these signs are actually physically inside the business behind the window. So they're deleting this language that, for decades, ever since we've had zoning in town, we've only regulated outdoor signs. They now want to remove that restriction to enforcement and be able to reach inside people's homes and businesses.
This can't be.
This is true. And again,
they're just upset about the neon signs in the vape shop. I must be really out of it because I've never even noticed those signs.
Yeah, the town has gotten complaints over the vape shop signs in the window.
Stop it.
Yeah, I mean that's how all of these things end up before the town council, right? And it's been very frustrating. It seems like every month there's something new that
You wanna get
we're
upset
banning
about
in
the
town.
vapes themselves. Okay, I get it. That's a problem, especially those disposable ones. It's just garbage. And to all my friends listening who use those products, it's just garbage. I, almost prefer you smoked actual cigarettes because those vapes, unless it's some really quality instrument, you're just sucking down straight poison.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to get upset about the vapes, I could understand. But you're upset about the neon in the window?
It's a legal business. Again, I don't support tobacco use either. I'd never set foot in the vape
Yeah,
shop.
don't smoke cigarettes either.
I'd never set foot in there until the sign issue came up, and then I went in and talked to them about it, what was going on, to let them know, hey, we're about to ban your signs. And the owner, it's a very, very clean business. They've put a lot of effort into that business that was set up. But
Right.
the owner was shocked. Why are people coming after my signs? It was very hard for me to find these signs that convey the messages I want to convey, but I think we're cutting off our nose to spite our face here, right? By getting rid of the vape shop signs, we're going to end up causing a lot of problems for everyone else, because again, now for the first time, the town zoning ordinance reaches inside your house, reaches inside your window. Anything that can be seen
Right.
from the public right-of-way, even if it's inside your house or business, can now be regulated.
If anybody has a comment on this, 946-2201 if you'd like to speak on the air, or the other number to call is 434-946-9000. And,
Yes.
it's very interesting, some things that, and unfortunately, never make the newspaper. And, maybe it's because the newspaper moved out of town, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if that's entirely accurate. The newspaper does cover the town meetings and what was mentioned at the town meetings, and I have already talked about this at the town meetings. I expect it to be in the newspaper, mentioned as something that was talked about.
I appreciate the New York Progress doing a good job of covering
Well,
town
yeah,
issues.
and Justin Faulkner's a good friend of ours.
Yeah, it probably won't be front page above the fold because there's our print media covers a wide area, right? It covers the whole county, and also stuff interesting that's relevant going on in the Lynchburg area. So town politics can end up kind of being forgotten and not really relevant to a lot of people. Again, like Sam mentioned, sometimes he's the only person at school board meetings. Sometimes I'm the only person speaking for or against during some of the public hearings that we have. And it's been
at the town council meetings. I've seen that's true.
It's been very frustrating. It's like I'm coming in, I'm the voice of the people, right? That's what citizen comments are for. It's for the town to be able to get the citizen's opinion before voting on something. I am the only voice representing for or against, and I believe I lay down some very strong points as to why a particular thing may be bad, and I don't even get a response. They don't even address my comments many times. They just go ahead and vote as they've already decided to vote anyway. I at least would like a discussion, right? I'll be 47 years old this year. I know I'm not going to always get my way, right? I know there's a lot of people that disagree with the way I see things, but we've got to have the discussion. We've got to have the debate, right? Minds can change, right? When you bring up points you haven't thought about before. So, I've already spoken twice now about this sign ordinance change where they're going to be able to reach inside your home or business. But both times I've been speaking about these things at the Planning Commission and at the Town Council meeting, I feel like I'm talking to a wall. And it's very frustrating. We need more people showing up. If they're not going to listen to me, then maybe they'll listen to 10 of us. We have this correcting feature in our system of government called elections, right? And that's what's supposed to deal with leaders that are out of touch with those they represent.
We talk about wanting to have somebody with opposing viewpoints. Maybe we ought to have somebody from the town council who
Would love that.
could call in, which you can do.
Bob, that's a great idea.
Or even have them here at the studio. We've got one extra physician. We can bring you in.
I mean,
And some of the members privately agree with me. But they mentioned to me that change is hard, right? That current interests are entrenched, and
There was some good talk in the last meeting, I think, and this is maybe an issue we have some disagreement on, but I loved the talk about the walkability studies and putting some money into revitalizing downtown, taking away some parking spaces to expand the sidewalk to make more of a town square environment, and that on that piece of Main Street between 2nd Street and Court Street. Or another concept they were talking about, I think less interested in, it would be putting some tree-lined medians on South Main Street, sort of around where the high school is, where there's no necessary turns. There is that middle turn lane that they could convert into a tree-lined median. I'm less interested in that. I mean, it could be nice. I know, Sonny, we could get into this, but I do want to say, I think putting street trees is a good idea.
Oh, I was being sensational a little bit when I said we're going to dump dirt in the middle of the road and plant trees. I mean, from one perspective, it looks like that, right? But there's a reasonable discussion that can take place about what are the beautification efforts that we can do that aren't going to cost us a lot of money, but can bring vast improvement to our public spaces.
I'm for fiscal conservatism. Call me crazy. I don't even think you need to spend a ton of dough on some private design company. We've plenty of, builders in our community. I mean, there's probably, I don't know. You probably have to do these things a certain kind of way with permitting and stuff like that. But it seems like a type of community project where you could actually get people to volunteer to put their efforts in, like we talked about for the town park. And that's another issue that I know we're starting to get close to the end of our hour here, but we should really get into this. It was over a year and a half ago now that the comprehensive plan came out, and there was a survey done. And the overwhelming response to the survey was people wanted a park. People wanted some kind of town square-like area where the town could come together and congregate. It doesn't exist. Apparently, somewhere on South Main, I think it's like, where is that? It's like maybe next to where the Historical Society is. There was like a bowling green where the men would play lawn bowling. Maybe we're First National, somewhere around there. Apparently,
whatever it was, it's now covered in asphalt.
And I've heard that like the area in front of the courthouse was sometimes used as a kind of village green congregating
It still
area.
could be. I mean, nobody's doing that.
But just the
right
idea
now
that there was this overwhelming response and that the town has almost ignored it. I mean, like I go to almost every town meeting like you do, and they never have addressed it. And most notably, I mean, shockingly, the town was presented with a parcel of land as a gift to make a park out of it. Exactly what the people have been asking for. It was this amazing, no-brainer gimme. Maybe not without issue, but it was pretty straightforward. And the town whiffed. And thankfully, the county came in and accepted the gift.
Yeah, I think that worked out better in the end.
Okay.
So I had, I was neutral. I didn't speak either for or against the park when it was going on. And I understood the arguments from both sides. I had the same concerns that the town is not really set up to be able to manage parks and recreation. They don't have a parks and recreation department. They don't have staff dedicated to that function. The council members that were opposed to the park, mentioned the track record of the town with what was dubbed the swamp, right? The park we have now.
Yeah. It's really
down
not
Scotts Mill Road.
It's not ideal.
But
the old mill park.
But the need is valid, right? And that wasn't really emphasized during the discussions, right? Like even if you're against this particular proposal, you could have still mentioned that validated the need, right? And that didn't seem to happen during these meetings from the people that were against the park.
It's that attitude that you could just in the face of town council. Do you realize there's people trying to raise families here, and there's not one sprinkler in the entire county. Is that a partisan issue? Isn't that an American concept? I mean, it's almost like, just imagine any town in America has a little, like a quality playground gathering area. And that playground, there is one playground at the elementary school in town that there's these 2 benches. One of them is broken now. I mean, you can't even sit on it. The other bench, it's covered in bird poop, and it's in the sun. There's no shade. There's no table. There's no garbage can. So then people end up, the playground becomes littered with the McDonald's wrappers and stuff like that. And it's ridiculous how sort of unthoughtful the whole endeavor is.
You can't take your young kids there during school hours either.
Right, so it's extremely, there's all these issues. And then again, not one sprinkler. I love going swimming in the river. I love Mill Creek Lake and the other lakes, Thrashers and Stonehouse. But it's like, I just need a sprinkler. Like, I don't, like, it's a whole production with towels and driving into the mountains. And, it's excellent. And I'm grateful for it. I mean, we are so lucky and blessed to have that. 100%. I'm not turning my nose up at that, but I'm also just saying sometimes you just need a playground with a sprinkler that you could run around. It's a no-brainer.
It's a solution to a drawback of living in an urban area, right? There's benefits and drawbacks to living in the country.
Okay.
There's benefits and drawbacks to living in a developed place where everyone's close together, right? But having public green space is a solution to try to mitigate the drawbacks of living in an urban area, right?
Well,
we
course,
need that.
One of the things is that we also have Millstone Lake, and we have 3 lakes.
Yes.
Pretty close
by.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of the things that we're talking about maybe being in the town, but they are fairly close.
We have a lot of people that live in town that don't have cars.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's hard to believe That's hard to believe for us car owners.
Right.
But yeah, Amherst, the town of Amherst is a walkable town.
Mm-hmm.
The town of Amherst has just about everything you need within walking distance.
Okay, but that back in the day, there was a bus from the town of Amherst to Lynchburg. I mean, that was something that used to exist.
I might have heard that
anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the breeze. Okay, once a day. It's extremely inconvenient. I mean, it can't work for you to have to spend the night in Lynchburg to be able to take
you can get a ride to Lynchburg at 3, but you can't get a ride back until 9 in the morning the next day. Yeah, that's not going to work.
So
so people stand out on the on-ramp, right? Just waiting for a ride.
No.
I don't know if you've seen people out there before. They just sit on people sit on the guardrail looking for a ride to Lynchburg. I've picked them up before. On the 29 on-ramp off of Route 60.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there'll be people sitting out there on the guardrail sometimes. And they're not sticking their thumb out, it's just they assume why they're sitting there.
It's been a great discussion, and I think a very successful first program. And
Bob, thank you so much to you and WAMV for making this dream a reality.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and thanks for our caller who called in. Had some good points of view there, and we'll probably be doing this again another time, but it may not be the exact same time, but we'll find out. And thank you so much. Once again, the expressions and opinions of the people who called in and or our spokesman here are those of the speakers themselves and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoint of WAMV, its management and owners. But we're glad to have you all here, and we sort of say that because we don't want to get into trouble. But
thanks, Bob, and thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Sonny. Thanks a lot.
And thank
you for being here. And it's been a wonderful program. I've really enjoyed having you here today.
And thanks to Wendy for calling.
Indeed, thank you, Wendy. Let's we got time right now for town news from the town of Amherst, but it's not about the town of Amherst. Anyway, here is WAMV News at 55.